This is the all-new Brackett Show. Brackett Show. And now, here's Chris Brackett.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chris Brackett. This is the Brackett Show. Chris is in the other room.
Hey, man.
We're moving and grooving this morning. I've got my coffee. I have it really rich today.
Really rich, man. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it. A lot of it thick. Like Phil Robertson says, you should be able to stir it and then the spoons stand up in it.
So you're bringing the energy is what you're saying.
I'm bringing the energy.
Oh, man.
I should have went for the
Watch
espresso. But the last 2 days, man, I have been in dial mode. I normally wait in October to go and get my stands up and invade and get all my trail cameras in and go do what I have been waiting all year to do, which is to go dive into my property, into the deep parts of it. Most people would think, well, he would do that in July. He would do that. You know what? I'm not. I'm trying to study the sign, not really because I mess up the deer, but I'm trying to study the sign from the first week or so of October and the end of September, trying to find if there's a buck doing his thing in and around a property or a part of the property that I can get in early October and get one shot, a big one. And so I'll wait for this first week or so. And normally by now we get at least one day that's super windy and super rainy. This is one of my tricks. Super rainy, super windy. Get all your trail cameras, wear them in a backpack, and invade your property while that rain's coming, and then put up all your last-minute scrapes and all your last-minute camera moves and tree stands and blinds and all your last tweaks. But we have not had any rain, and we're not like North Carolina and now Florida that's getting pounded. So it's still a blessing. I'm still been invading a little bit here with the wind and the crops coming out, but that's been my entire hunter brain focus, whitetail brain focus right now, is making those little tweaks with your cameras and your tree stands and getting them ready. And yesterday with my wife went out, didn't have any of the guys to help, but went out and made sure the ladders on my blinds were set, made sure they moved them, trimmed them out. And then because it was hot, I knew the deer were way deep, and I knew the wind was up, and there was combining corn and beans yesterday. The combines were ripping up and down through the fields, and slowly but surely, all the crops are coming off, man, and these deer are showing up on the property. I'm pretty excited.
I was going to ask you, so you're starting to see some more deer coming around that you haven't seen in a while?
I was scared to death, right? Episode 2, I was scared to death that all the deer were dead. And in my area right now, on one of the properties, they are not dead. I have 2 of my big boys that just showed up, and waiting for more every day. I'm seeing a few more deer as the corn comes out, and I'm more fired up than ever. And I have breaking news this week about the cold front and the full moon. Breaking.
Okay.
From the farmer's mouth. You know, when you look back at the farmer's almanac and then you watch what farmers are looking at, because their livelihood depends on their crops coming out of the fields. Old Royce Poo yesterday was giving me the lowdown on how it's the cold's coming at the same time as the full moon, and I am excited for next week. So we'll wait for the lowdown later on in the show like we always do, and I just kind of need you to give me a little wake-up call.
All right, man, here we go.
Wakey.
Wake up.
Oh, that was the wake-up call. Wake-up call is brought to you by Hunting Day Coffee. It says right here, full of flavor and character. It don't get any better than that. Steven and his wife, April, thanks a lot. They make Hunting Day Coffee. Check them out. I love the coffee. It's really, really, really rich. It's good. They got pumpkin spice now, and they got nativity with a Christmas peppermint, and they got a whiskey river and all these cool ones. So go check them out. Hunting Day Coffee. What do you got for me?
Yeah, this is Jeremy from Tennessee. I was just wondering if you would talk more about maybe that October not hunting in the morning.
People freaking.
The more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me. But, hunting the outer edges like you were talking about, just kind of hit on that a little more. and why you don't hunt in the morning. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Tennessee's a sleeper state. I love my guys from Tennessee. I'm becoming a college football fan, I think, a little bit. I've been watching the Vols, the Tennessee Volunteers, because of my friend Brandon. He's got me into college football a little bit. So I've been paying attention. I'm kind of into it. So Tennessee is near and dear to my heart. I went down there.
But speaking of paying attention, I think people have been paying attention because you mentioned this whole October thing and not hunting in the morning, which he's asking about. I think you ruffled a few feathers. I
ruffled feathers. I like doing that. I like doing that when it has to do with truth, and I like doing that when it has to do with that I know what I'm talking about. If you hear me talk about deer, I don't care how you hunt deer. I don't care what you do, but if I'm trying to help you get better or hunt that bigger deer, it's a big deal. So Tennessee, to me, is in the South, right? So it's a little different than the Midwest. So thank you very much for your question. But remember, Tennessee, Kentucky, and down south, you're watching people like the Goinses and some of these guys that are Blair and his brother, and they're taking some of this stuff down south and they're tweaking what we do in the Midwest. And the guys in the Midwest that know what they're talking about, the consultants, the Lakoskis, whoever, enter X there, the big buck, older buck killers. We have found out that a pattern that all of us follow is that early morning October invading your property or invading the timber in most of October, if not all of it. If you were to watch your mornings and spend your mornings either going into work early all week and spend time with your family in those mornings and concentrate on those mornings in October, and save those hunts for November 1, even Halloween morning, but November 1, 2, 3, 4, and wait till that sweet November coldness. The reason why, there's one main reason why in October I do not go into the woods October mornings, is because for 15 to 20 years, I hunted October mornings. I loved them. I would have argued with you a million times over that I love October mornings. That's great. You can love them. You can push all the big bucks to your neighbor that's not hunting October mornings. If you're killing and hunting big deer, 3.5-year-olds, 4.5-year-olds, and might even every once in a while kill one of these older echelon, high-scoring big bruiser bucks on an October morning, you're getting lucky. I love to be lucky just like the next guy. I love to get lucky. But those October mornings, just like this morning in my yard, all the deer were coming back. I want to give you a scenario. The scenario is this. If the deer are out in the fields eating, they have eaten all of September and they have eaten early October, but they do not have their feed bags on like they will in November, trying to more survive and rut it up. So a deer traveling from a food source out in a field or out in a meadow or an oak flat coming back to bed has a shorter period of time when he travels. That's it. Very short period of time from the time the deer goes from where he's eating back through where he was meandering and showing off his muscles to his bedroom. So the fact that most people on average have to get up early in the morning, get all their stuff together, get in the car, get in the truck, drive 30 minutes, let's just say 30 minutes to the place they're hunting, get all ready, walk 10 or 15 minutes at a good clip into their spot, get up in their tree, walking through fields and stuff to get in there, to get ready, to maybe hunt an hour in an October morning. You're doing more damage than you are good. Period. But does that make sense to the common person? Like, I get that we love October mornings. So if I had to tell you why I'm telling you and ruffling all these feathers, like don't hunt October mornings, because y'all don't call me to go, hey, how can I shoot a little Bambi doe for my freezer? Hey, how do I shoot a little fork-horn 1.5-year-old? Hey, how do I shoot my first little 8-pointer? You're not coming to me for that. That's easy stuff to do. Okay, just hunt, look for the trails, be on the downwind. If you're trying to kill that big monster mega deer. You may have already shot a bunch of nice deer, but there's always a deer bigger that you can't get. I'm telling you, and I'm trying to teach you on how to get that one. The one that your brother gets or your neighbor lucks into during the season, during the gun season, that you've been hunting for 30 days with your bow. What if I'm right? What if I'm trying to help you? What if this gray hair is me hunting October mornings for the last decade, getting my tail whooped by 6 and 7 and 8-year-old trophy once-in-a-lifetime deer? I'm trying to teach you how to hunt once-in-a-lifetime deer. I'm trying to give you stay out October mornings, hunt evenings on the edges, and wait for November 1 and invade and kill him day 1. And you're arguing with me over potatoes and tomatoes and how do you say which one? I'm talking about once in a lifetime deer. You're talking about I've killed my best buck on October mornings over scrape hunting. Awesome. Keep doing it. Have fun. If you want to listen to how to kill the biggest deer in the woods and those once in a lifetimers, that's the moment I'm looking for. So that's my rant. That's my wake up. Now I'm fired up.
All right, man. Let's go. Let's go. Well, that has been your wake up call. So wake up.
The hunting coffee.
All right, man.
Hunting day.
Hunting day coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So you're waiting. You're not hunting in the mornings, but you're starting to see some deer. I know kind of a tradition that you have is when you see a deer, you'll give it a name.
Yeah, I think a lot of people out west they kind of, why are these silly Midwesterners naming the deer? And here's why. If you were to go out tonight with me to either one of the 4 or 5 properties that I hunt in Illinois, we would take maybe the kids or my nephews and we would sit in the blind and we would be looking over out this big alfalfa field. We may see 4 8-pointers, right? And each animal's a little different, but they look pretty much the same. And I said, hey, here comes the 8-pointer, right? And then all of a sudden another 8-pointer comes out and the little, your little guys look at us and be like, well, that's an 8-pointer too. How do you tell the difference? And so that's the simplest reason why we name them. And then you start with like, oh, that's the 8-pointer with the short brow tines, right? And then you have a couple deer that are 8 points with short brow tines. And the next thing you know, you're like, that one's name's Petey. And you're like, why is his name Petey? I'm like, because I ran out of that's the 8-pointer with the short brow tines. Because when you have like 4 properties and you have all these 8-pointers and you're watching them for 4 and 5 and 6 years. Now realize that if you don't own property and you hunt public or whatever, you're going to have a little, you're going to try to pattern a deer and see it, move in on it. So you gotta have fun in everything, because if not, you take it too serious. Right. So some of the reason that we name them, name a whitetail buck deer, is because it's fun. But we're really just trying to keep tabs on a deer, like no different than a biologist or somebody. They would be like, well, that's X562, and that's on his ear tag. Or like cows, like you grew up out in Canton. Yeah. You drive by a cow and it'd be like, that's I3, and be like, she's mean when she has calves. Like there's no difference. But we just decided to name him Petey, and like, here's some of my names, Spooner, and
Okay, wait, I'm gonna pause you because that's gonna take us to a game here. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do.
Either way, I name them lots of cool names.
No, I know.
Okay,
I know. So we're gonna get into that. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds here. Okay, just off the top of your head. I know you've written some down, so we can get into them. Okay, but off the top of your head, I want you to name all the deer that you can that you have killed over the years and the names you've given them. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds. We're going to call this segment Chris Against the Clock. Okay.
See how many I can get.
All right. Let's see how many you can get.
Coffee.
Here we go. Ready?
Coffee.
Yeah, I know. Let the coffee kick in. Okay. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Set. Go.
Okay. Donger, 8x, Diamond, Method Man, Wolverine, Handy, the big 8 with kickers, Joe's Deer, Big Stranger,
oh, come on,
Mr. Perfect, what are some of the other famous ones? Kicker 10, 7-10 split.
All right, that's your time. Okay, you got 13. You got 13. 13 in 30 seconds. That's pretty good.
I missed Big Chungus.
Ooh.
I missed...
of course, everyone knows Big Chungus.
Big Chungus, and then I had a really cool deer that was named... he just lived there forever. What was his name? Anyway, I'll think of it. But I had a deer that was really old. He was like famous on the property. Oh, it's just short tine 10. And then I had one that was spork. Spork.
Nice.
He literally had this thing.
Oh, it looked like a spork?
Yeah, you could cut it off and probably use it to eat. Well, what do you eat? If anybody doesn't know what a spork is, because it is 2024, it's a spoon and a fork.
Yeah. I mean,
what would you eat with a spoon and a fork? I'm thinking the perfect meal.
What wouldn't you eat with a spoon and a fork?
Well, I'm going for the perfect meal. I think the perfect meal for a spork would be, ready? Mac and cheese.
Oh, okay.
You could stick it or spoonful it.
So I think like next generation technology for plasticware or silverware, we put a knife on the other end. So you have like spoon, fork.
Oh, I'm sure they make that.
But then you flip
like
around.
Camping World or something.
I'm sure. But let's pretend like I just made that up.
Okay.
We can start selling them.
What would you call them?
Oh, I don't know, man. That's too much. We'll leave that alone. Well, I don't have a name. But
can I tell you something about the deer naming thing?
Yeah, please.
All right. This is where I look into the camera. I get these intimate moments. Ready? Never, ever name a deer something that will defeat you. I named a deer Chuck Norris once. He ducked my arrow. I named a deer like Viking. Like if you name a deer something of like reverence and depth, and like you never name one like Terminator or something that can beat you. Every time I've ever named a deer something bigger than itself, it was like, never name a deer Maximus Decimus Aurelius. You have to kill his name before you can kill him, and you'll never kill his name, and he lives on as a legend. So if you're going to name a deer, you got to call him like Fuzzy Bunny or Fluffy.
Well, I mean, seriously, Chuck Norris. I mean, there's like all the memes, right? Like, you don't hunt Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris hunts you. So, yeah. I mean, no wonder you didn't.
100%. So that is my advice today. That is my tip today: is never name a deer something bigger than you, because you can't kill his name. You can't kill the deer. And I really did. I was on a hunt, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to name this deer. This deer is like the biggest, most beautiful velvet. And I'm like, we'll name him Chuck Norris. Man, that deer smoked me. Like, he ducked my arrow 1.5 feet, and I had him dead to rights.
So you learned your lesson.
I learned my lesson. Now I name them things like Long Duck Dong and Fluffy and Diamond and,
How long ago was Chuck Norris that you missed Chuck Norris?
Oh, man, Chuck Norris was over 12 or 14 years ago, and there's not a week that goes by that I don't...
He's probably still out there.
No, somebody killed him.
Oh.
But here's the crazy part. That deer was so prone to ducking, he actually ducked 3 more arrows. So I hunted him first week of September, and the guys hunted him, and finally a guy killed him with a gun. But he had ducked like 3 arrows after that. Like, he knew the game. And he was a big deer, man. Chuck Norris.
I like to think that Chuck Norris is still out there. He, like living longer than any other deer, because after all, he's Chuck Norris.
Yeah, we named things like after food, like Snickers the deer one time, and you name a deer Stickers, and you name stuff that's just kind of fun. And you have character. You just go like by characteristics. So my friend Tim has a deer he names Chocolate. His rack is just beautiful, dark chocolate. It smells. It tastes of rich mahogany. Molasses. Nice. That'd be a good name for a deer.
Oh yeah. If it was slow, it was big and slow.
Dude, that's perfect. That so goes to
write
one
that down,
of my deer.
Yeah.
I'm putting it down in my
add that
molasses.
Add that to the
big
list.
Molasses.
So while you're doing that, the last episode 3, if you haven't checked it out, was a really great opportunity to hear from Chris. A lot of people have probably had questions. If you followed Chris's career, there's been a lot that happened over the last 5 years.
I've done a lot of cool stuff, but I've also messed up a lot.
Yeah.
I'm an older, wiser man for it.
So people might wonder, during that time after the feds came, like, what did you do? Because you you weren't able to hunt, right? So
Yeah.
what did you do during that time?
Well, if I look at it from like more of a spiritual, so I've kind of got like two definitions of it. I always have those questions. I always have those questions about like why things are the way they are, or are they already laid out in front of us? Our Creator Yahweh, and our Father in heaven, and then we have where does Jesus come in, and like what does he have for us? And he shows us love, but he also is like, sometimes, Brackett, you need to be humble. Well, we always need to be humble, but we're human. So it's like I loved fear no evil. Psalm 23, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Right. And then in that same thing as Psalm 23, you have like, lay next to the cool water, and you think like, oh, my Creator wants me to come lay next to the water and in the cool grass, and you're like, no. Sometimes he'll kick your feet out from under you and say like, stay down, be still, find out where your worth is, what I want you to do, and that's where he had me. He allowed me to have everything that I have ever dreamed, and then go into what was my next season in my life, because we don't plant food plots and reap the big bucks eating the food plots in the same season. We have seasons where we're preparing the soil. We have seasons where we are putting in the brassica plots from white gold or the clover rush into the dirt, right? And we have times when we are fertilizing and liming that thing. So if you are in a place where you're all over and you don't really know what to do, identify the season you're in, because sometimes I'm reaping, killing giant deer that are walking through the food plot, and sometimes I'm tearing up the dirt, preparing the soil for the seed. And it's in Matthew. That's one of the most identifying parts, because it talks about birds and it talks about seeds, and like it's my jam. And I knew that I was immediately slammed to the ground, feet kicked out from under me, where God was going to change my life in a new direction. And the one common denominator out, whether it was turkeys or ducks or New Zealand red stag or whitetails or whatever, there's one thing that came back to it, and it was land. And so I spent my time out from the feds and from everything that happened into land. I started volunteering at churches. I realized real quick from going to churches and speaking that was something I was not spiritually prepared for, because of how fast the devil would come for you in your thoughts and kind of what pastors go through. Your dad
Sure.
knows about that, right? And you know about that from your family.
I mean, I've been involved in churches all my life. My dad was a pastor too, so
He comes for. I mean, it's real spiritual warfare. So I knew that my brain, I didn't have like an addiction, but my brain was to just start working on land. Whether I volunteered or whether I had to rent a tractor or whether somebody had a tractor, I went into a year or so of my life where I was selling stuff to survive, and it was cleansing my life. And anybody that had a tractor or was working on land, I went and learned it. And I started getting into land. Then I got my real estate's license, and I started realizing that I needed to go figure out about trees and PI on ground. And I started doing land. And that led me to now what I'm doing, which is probably more fun than doing outdoor television, which was to go to a property like Brandon's in Tennessee or Chris's in Wisconsin and go walk for a day, a couple days, come back and coach them throughout the year on how to plant all their stuff and how to set it up, and watch good hunters become unbelievable hunters because now their land works for them. And I realized that was my calling, which is why we do this, to tell people about the consulting side of my business, which is Chris Brackett's Game Changers, or Go Land Life, and this is the website. And it's literally between, it varies anywhere between $3,500 and $10,000, depending on how big the property is and how in depth. And, we're looking at like a seasonal change of little things that we can do, like putting down clover rush, or, how to change how they hunt and how to access, and looking at the topography, all the way up to creating a buck Bible, which is like this presentation book that they can have everything in, and that's just a higher echelon, more work. And then you give that to them, and they're going to hand it down to their grandchildren one day, and it'll have all of the years and years in there of how to do stuff, and a projection for a 1-year plan, 3-year plan, and a 5-year plan. And that's why I love land, man.
Yeah. Well, and you're able to share a lot of knowledge that you've learned. Because about how many years was that you kind of started developing that, where you weren't able to travel as much and hunt?
Well, when I got in trouble and I took my show off the air and realized that I took it off, it wasn't like I was blocked or banned. It was a meeting with Jim and Mitch and everybody from Outdoor Channel, and they were trying to save me heartache from, the sponsor money wasn't coming in, whatever. So at that time, I just took it off. I had a season that hadn't aired, and I just hung out. And when I mean hung out, like I just went anywhere that was good for me, men's groups, church, and then walked land and started figuring out land, topography, how to read topography maps, how to grow certain things. I'll probably bet that has been the number one priority in my worldly walk and my goal for the past 8 to 9 years.
Yeah. Well, so as you're learning and growing and you've done a lot of land development, we have some questions talking about that. So why don't we get into some of those calls? Once again, you can call the landline. So if you have any questions for Chris, you can call the landline at
309-761-5263, 309-761 LAND.
Awesome.
So it's the land line. How fun is that?
Yeah.
And ask anything. Just like this guy. Ask anything you want. Ain't nothing safe. Ask me. Let's go.
Chris, Sam, Wisconsin.
I love Sam.
Epic Acres. I bought another section. It's 30 acres of alfalfa. It's I want to do a 100-foot path all the way around the property. And switchgrass, my idea is to do like 30 feet of solid switchgrass and then the 70 feet of what you call dirty switchgrass. Mm-hmm. But here's my question. It's alfalfa right now. Do I kill it off this year and then till it? Do I cross seed it? Do I wait and kill it all next year? Let me know. Thanks. Bye.
My guy in Wisconsin. All right. I know Sam. Sam has truly flipped and just is living the land life, man. He's got Epic Acres. It's his own dream. He works hard doing his stuff and running big equipment and driving trucks and stuff. And so when he comes home, he just knew that his grandkids and his kids and his wife, they wanted to create something of their own. They're living the land life. And so what Sam's asking about, we talk a lot about I build a pond. He's like, dude, I got to build a pond. It looks like the most fun. I'm like, I am onto something. I have my dream. I have my pond. I have my fish. I feed them every day. It's what's keeping me alive and going through all these hard times over the last couple of years. And now I get to share it at the Airbnb. And so Sam's in the same spot. Sam is creating, this Epic Acres, which is all of his bucket list, his things that he's wrote on, written, my mom was a teacher, written in his book of life. He is actively crossing those off. He's got his lake, he's got his trees planted, he's working on blinds, and he's acquiring things around him to make Epic Acres even better. Now, his question has to do with soft edges. We've talked about this in the Land Life series on YouTube that you can find on YouTube on our channel, Chris Brackett Land Life on YouTube. We're talking about soft edges. Soft edges is where you go from timber, woods. We all hunted the woods when we were kids. You went in the woods when you were a kid, right? And so you have the woods and then you have some type of field. What you're trying to do is create a transition area. The first thing that I teach on my consults is how do we look and think, how can we create more edge? And what more edge means is that you have your timber and you have your field. So you have one edge between your timber and your field. If you were to add about 30 feet, right? He was talking about having a couple different layers. So he's taking it one level more. First thing that you do is you take the outer edge of your field where it touches the timber and you're going to kill it off. And then you're going to look at what dirty switch is. Dirty switch, by definition, is switchgrass that has other things in it. Maybe some goldenrod, maybe some Indian grass, or some blue, big blue or little blue, or just foxtail. That is going to mean that you have switchgrass with some other weeds in it. Switchgrass by itself in a non-competition setting is going to be XLR8 or quinclorac sprayed on this switchgrass as it grows. We're going to get into that in a second. His question is, he already knows that he wants to produce a soft edge that's going to help him have more edge, which is going to double or triple the number of deer and the number of big deer that are on his property. That is proven over and over. What he has to do is he has to eliminate a legume, a alfalfa, that grows a 7 to 10 foot taproot. So alfalfa, being a very hardy drought plant, is going to be very hard to kill. So the chemicals you are going to use to get rid of alfalfa are not going to hurt your switchgrass. Okay? And that is going to be a 2,4-D. 2,4-D is a broadleaf killer, and it only kills broadleafs. It does not affect grass. Do you know this? Like your yard's beautiful and big. You can spray 2,4-D in your yard, and it will kill all the clover and all the broadleaves.
Yeah, which we do.
Yeah, and so you just are going to use that practice and over to kill that. And Ray from Genesis Wildlife Group was just reminding us of this on his Facebook page of right now is a perfect time, Sam, to go kill these edges. If you guys all have this little bit of time, but the breaking news today might change this a little bit. Go out and spray it with the 2,4-D.
Oh man, that's a tease again.
It's another tease. Go out and spray your outlying areas around the edges with your 2,4-D and your Roundup. Now, here's what I do want to warn you, okay? Sam, even though you're going to go spray and kill that, I do not think that I would do that until spring, and here's why. I don't want you guys to have torrential rains or snow melt that's going to wash away your top layer of soil, because it's so important, okay? So if you are, I think where you're at's pretty flat and it doesn't have a lot of runoff. Just watch your runoff, because I don't want those roots to disintegrate too early to rinse off all the topsoil. But you're just going to use 2,4-D and Roundup. And if you really want to get naughty, you can use some Liberty instead, and Liberty will just smoke everybody. It's about controlling the competition. So yeah, you can go kill it. Just make sure you don't have a real steep embankment on your field edge. You don't want to wash away your soil. Hey, Sam, thanks for the call.
All right, here's a related question.
Okay.
Chris, hey, it's Luke again. Thank you so much for answering my question last time. Got another one. This one's more about land management. Chris, we've talked so many times about frost seeding clover, which is great. It's successful. We've done it successfully many times. You know me, I've got a small property, not a lot of equipment.
Busy guy.
I have a tight budget. My next question is frost seeding switchgrass. I've never talked to you about this before, but you know my goals, and we got to get some switchgrass around the edges. And I did okay. I paid somebody this last season to come in and drill it in. It worked fine, but I'm trying to avoid that. Hey, man, what do you think? How should I go about doing it? Do you think I can get it to work on my little property and get a good stand going by this time next year? Thanks, buddy.
It is not my first choice to frost seed anything but clover, and alfalfa is about 50-50. Alfalfa, I just plant really heavy if I frost seed it, because it doesn't work the same as clover. It's not as hardy in the spring, right? So those two things are the only thing that I recommend frost seeding. Now, that being said, if we are talking about the stuff that he had drilled in and he was working on his edges and doing those soft edges, frost seeding this Marchish would not hurt it, but you're going to have to control your weeds, and your weeds are going to be controlled by a quinclorac or a 2,4-D. None of the new stuff none of the new stuff that's growing that you're frost seeding in there is even going to germinate until 65 degrees or 70 degrees in the soil. So the thing that I would probably look at doing, Luke, is kind of along the same lines as Sam. If Sam right now was to kill off whatever he has on his edges in his alfalfa and frost seed, a great experiment, and experimenting is the way we grow. A great experiment is to throw down this switchgrass. But the only problem I have with frost seeding too early switchgrass, even though you get the stratification, which is the freeze and the thaw, and it helps break out the shell, I'm a big advocate for just 2,4-D or Roundup and a simazine or an atrazine to hold back the weeds early in the spring. The answer to the question is a two-parter. One, if your switchgrass is already established and it is growing, I'm going to ask you one question. Did the stuff you planted this year, did it head out and create seed? Because those seeds are going to germinate. Why even frost seed it? Don't waste the money. So if you have actually budding seed heads on the switchgrass that you did this year, you don't have to frost seed. If you don't have them that big and they're trying to grow and they just came out and they're just got the squiggly little lines, go ahead and frost seed. It's not going to hurt you. I do about 2 pounds to the acre. Frost seeding, I go heavier, but if you've got some in there, just go with 2 pounds the acre. If you are first time planter and don't have a lot of equipment, I would say it is going to be cheaper for you to maintain in the spring with chemicals to kill what's there and maintain, and then put down sometime right before a rain, once the soil is 65 to 70 degrees, and then just broadcast on top in April and May, rather than trusting the frost seed, because the snow and the rain can really wreak havoc on washing away the seed in early frost seeding. I'm not an advocate for it. I would rather see you, Luke, use your four-wheeler and go out with the kids and spray and kill the areas 2 or 3 times before June, and then right before rain, just go ahead and then broadcast some switchgrass. You're going to have better success with that, killing it 2 or 3 times this spring, than frost seeding it and trying to beat Mother Nature.
Yeah. So this next question, it's less of a question, a little bit more of kind of sharing his experience, but you can kind of maybe speak to, once again, talking about land development, especially a larger property.
Chris, Captain Zach up here in Ohio. Love the new Brackett show setup, and thanks for all you do, brother.
Big fisherman.
Wanted to get into a little bit about different ways to help guys that are hunting strictly big timber. I know over the years it took me a while to finally be able to jump in and pick apart a 500 to 1,000 acres of deer habitat. Also knowing the difference between flatland giant blocks and giant blocks with big terrain. Spent thousands of hours the hard way to learn there are going to be areas that you really don't want to hunt, and not setting up the areas that look good just because it seems like a great spot to the average eye. And also not putting yourself in what I like to call dead woods, where your chances to see these mature bucks are slim to none. It's just an area that I see a lot of hunters struggle.
Yeah, so can you kind of speak to that as far as like setting up places to hunt and things like that?
I'm going to reverse engineer it, kind of how my brain breaks it down anyways. I'm going to talk about the dead zones, right? Like, so the dead zones are areas that to me change with how the season goes on. So he's talking about big timber tracts, whether it be private or public, and you're going to start looking at kind of dead zones. What they seem to be to me is, in society right now in our city, it would be like a golf course. A golf course has very few people on it, relatively, compared to neighborhoods or shopping centers or cars, right? And so this golf course is kind of this dead zone to anybody that's not a golfer, right? But if a kid's trying to get home from school, he's going to take the shortest route and he's going to run across the golf course, right? Especially when we were kids. And so those are kind of those dead zones. Those deer will go across those dead zones, but you're going to find from point A to point B, there may be one route on those dead zones that you can go across, and those could be deadly. But identifying the dead zones is exactly what Captain is talking about here. Captain Zach is, I think he's telling us what he's found to be dead zones. And if you can identify those dead zones, the downwind side, like we're always talking about downwind stuff coming from the west or the north or the south, you can go to that downwind of that dead zone, which means the dead zone has to end somewhere. It normally will probably end with either a topography change or it will end with a thicket change, which is an edge, right? And so we're going to see the same thing over and over and over and over. Dave Ramsey's made a living at it for 35 years, same thing over and over, teaching it. That dead zone, go to the downwind side of that dead zone. That's where your topography is going to change. That's where your woods are going to change into maybe a thicket. Maybe a tornado came through, straight winds, and dropped it. Maybe there's more water there. Maybe the soil's different. But downwind of this dead zone, you guys are watching on TV. I'm going to use my book here. Downside of this, maybe it's the side of a mountain. Maybe it's a flat. Somewhere there is on the outer side of those dead zones, you're going to find one of these things, topography or change in thickets or browse, right? Does that make sense? Most of the diet for a white-tailed deer is going to be browse. Well, if your browse is on the canopy way up at top where the leaves are, in these big, tall trees, there's no browse there, you know? But if these trees fall over and the light gets in, you're going to see the change there. So if I was to tell somebody big track hunting and how to isolate areas of deer movement, one, your topography is going to change. Your browse is the food because the mass crops are more in the big open areas where you can find that you're on the downwind side of these big massed crop dead areas that the deer can see a long ways and see, and get spooked easily. Those aren't where I'm going to concentrate. I'm going to concentrate on those edges and those thickets and those briars and that browse.
Yeah.
And that's normally the bigger deer are going to show you signs of where those rubs are. They might be years old. That's why I was talking about earlier when I get that big rain. This is, guys, when I'm ready. Like if me and my wife have something planned or whatever, if she kind of knows ahead of time that if that rain's going to get here, if that big wind is going to get here, I'm hitting the woods and going through and looking for the fresh sign, most recent information, right? And you're looking for that most recent information, but you're also looking for, generations of rubs and scrapes in those areas, and you can still see signs of that. Thanks, Captain. I appreciate you. Hope to get up there fishing with you this year.
Good morning, Chris Brackett. I am giving you a call with a question about the hill country of Ohio. How would you lay out a property where you didn't have destination ag and you're just working with the topography of the ground that's there, but there's oak browse, there's baiting, there's all of those challenges? Wondering what you would do to solve that, and just wanted to say congrats on what's likely to be the best chapter in the Brackett book, and I appreciate all you've done right back from Arrow Affliction and on. Have a great day. God is great. Bye.
All the time, man. That's a cool question because it's kind of got a little bit of dynamics here. So football and baseball, probably the best analogy I got here is, Chris, you're a baseball guy.
Yeah.
Different teams have different things they want to accomplish, right? Yankees got a whole lot of money, and they want to accomplish the World Series, and they're going to go after people, and they're probably more of an offensive team. I don't know. I root for the Cubs, so my baseball right now.
I'm literally learning right now that you're a Cub fan. I mean, I am too. So we got something else in common. But continue.
So like, let's take America's favorite pastime.
Yes.
Right? Look at baseball. They're trying to accomplish different things. Look at the Phillies, right? So Schwarber's one of my buddies, and I'm a Harper fan, and I didn't used to be, but knowing that he had always been the biggest kid in grade school and always been the way Harper is, right? They're a real offensive team. So, you put them in the crunch in the postseason. I don't know where they're at, but you put them in the crunch in the postseason, you're going to be expecting big runs and big home runs, right? Period. The same goes with football. There are different teams that are offensively better or defensively better, and their coaching shows that, right? I'm going to look at hunting the same way. You're still going to look at your thermals. You're still going to look at your topography. You're still going to look at these things. Different parts of the season. That's why the season goes from, you guys opened in September this year all the way through January, and even parts of Ohio go into late January. And so you're going to have different things that your season is going to give you. You have to be a Bo Jackson. You have to be, was it Dion that played both?
Yeah.
Yep. And so you're going to have to be able to play either early season, get on big deer, middle of the season in the rut. The rut's for rookies, I believe, and then you have late season. So I think if I was to look and break down an Ohio place, the first conversation that I would have with a client in Ohio would be, who are you? Are you defensive? Are you an offensive? Are you an early season over corn and where you can slip in real easy and hunt them on the edge of a field? Are you a scrape hunter in late October on the edge of a field? Are you a gun hunter in the big hills of Coshocton County or something, Ohio, and you're hunting kind of across the ridge to the other side with a rifle or a shotgun? Or are you a late season guy that's going to set up in a blind and wait on a food platter? The dynamics of the question that you ask are truly why we do this show, because there's so many dynamics. The only thing is that you have to either want to understand that my brain works different, and I have been through all these scenarios. So what I have spent my whole life is dialing in all these different places and all these different time zones in all these different seasons. And one person, which is why everybody got so fired up with the October, don't hunt mornings in October comment, is because I'm trying to help you get to a certain level. That means go attack in November and be really chill in October and hunt evenings and enjoy your life. So if I'm going to look at Ohio, I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to figure out when I want to kill my one buck. You get one buck tag in Ohio. When do you want to kill him? For me, I have found that a bait state, a feed state, Kansas, North Dakota, Kentucky, Ohio, Texas, the times to hunt. And if you watch the TV people, I used to be one. You're hunting a bait state. Don't forget Kansas. If you're hunting a bait state, Kansas, North Dakota, Kentucky, all these places, Ohio, I'm baiting or feeding the heck out of every spot on my farm in Ohio. And I will take away the ones that the big bucks aren't using. And I'm going to hunt October over feed piles or some type of food in the big timber, where in places like Ohio. October, bait states. That has always been my rule. Illinois is a place where you go during the rut and you capitalize during the rut of deer running around like crazy. And that's kind of how I would look at it. I'm never going to drop over the top of the hill. I'm always going to hunt the tops. Good luck. Make sure you're hunting October, key in October. November's kind of hit or miss. Just don't get in the bottoms and kick your deer out of those big hollers. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So here in Illinois, we've been giving advice to a lot of different people, but there's some different properties that you've been managing and working on. And
yeah, I'm a broker in Illinois selling land.
Yeah. So we haven't gotten into that too much, but what sort of things do you look for when you're looking for a property?
When I look for a property, I am going to look for eastern access because I'm wanting to hunt it and I'm wanting to create a property that's a Disney World for whitetails. And so for me to do that, I have to play the dominant winds, and I can leave them alone until the front gets here, and then I hunt them hard from these traps. So just last night I was talking to my wife about, I have 5 traps on our 100 acres and all the deer have to go through those traps, but I play westerly and, northwest, southwest, and west winds. You won't see me invading my property on the east because of how my property sets up. So those are things I'm looking for, right? And I think in the real estate game, legal wise, I have to say I'm a broker in Illinois for Herman Brothers Realty. We have a fishery, we have a excavating and run campgrounds, but I lead kind of the real estate stuff in Illinois. So I can sell houses, I can sell land, I can sell anything. And here's probably the biggest thing if people are looking at hiring a realtor or a land person. Why would you hire me or somebody like me? Because I can, whether you're in Coshocton County, Ohio, or you're in Kentucky like Mike Savage, if you're going to buy a piece of ground, let's say in North Dakota or in Texas or wherever, and you want me to look at it, you don't have to pay me the consulting fee for that. Because I'm a realtor, I'm actually, sorry, let me start over. Let me clarify. I am not a realtor. I am a real estate broker. There's technical terms, and it's not anything but a slip of words, but I'm a real estate broker in Illinois. We have certain rules here. So, if people want to, you can be looking at a piece of property in another state, and you can reach out to me, and I can break down the property for you, and you can work with me, and we will find you the perfect agent. And that agent can be a Remax or a Whitetail Properties, or we're going to find the person that suits you, but you don't have to do it alone. The reason why I got my real estate license is so I can get reciprocating referrals from people all over the country. I help you get to a place where you understand what you're buying, where you understand the percentages of PI and timber and find value that most people don't know what they're looking for. So if you're looking for real estate to hunt or nature or rec, you can call me. I will be on your team with you, and I will get paid by that agent because they have already allocated that for their sale of that property. So you're going to get a huge value, and you don't even have to hire me as a consultant. You get it, but the referral pays it. So it's a really cool dynamic. And I have 2 properties in Illinois right now. One's agent owned, and then one of them is a little 25-acre piece that a guy has that has a 50 by 30 building on it. It has a really long, it's a long piece that butts up against an old kind of a Boy Scout camp or something. And it's in a section in Fulton County, Illinois, that is just known for giant deer. We've put a food plot on it. It has stands already on it. It's $240 something thousand for a 50 by 30 building. Sits up beautifully, CRP, and has really big deer that run through it. It's not a place on 25 acres that holds deer, but it's a place where they have to go through. Some of those places, it's just small enough you can afford it at 240 something thousand, and then but those deer run through it, and you can have a place to go have a campfire and plant, sunflowers and food plots and shoot 2 big deer. It's a place a guy could come from out of town, stay, finish the inside of that building, and then maybe lease another place around, and he can still have fun on the 25 acres with his kids and shoot 2 nice deer a year,
Which it's all about fun, right? You said that before. It's always all about fun.
Yeah, well, that's because I search for fun in my life, right? You got the little kids, man.
I do.
The little kids bring out the fun when I've kind of done everything. I try to find fun. Sometimes it's just in coffee or coming in here to do this. I try to find moments of fun to make it through life, because life's hard.
Life is definitely hard. Life is definitely hard. But yeah, I mean, this is fun for us, and hopefully it's fun for you guys listening and watching. As a reminder, if you want to be part of the show, you can call the land line, which is
309-761-5263. And that is actually stands for land. So you can go 309-761-LAND. Leave us any kind of question. Ain't nothing safe. You can ask whatever. Chris, the most exciting piece of property I have is 61 acres. That one of the guy that taught me so much about food plots and trees, he owned it. And out of circumstance, I have purchased it. So it's agent owned. I have to declare that. It is 61 acres. That I don't know if there's another property that somebody could have that has every kind of food plot. I personally planted 7 acres of soybeans on it. It's got switchgrass and miscanthus and a little baby kind of a little baby cabin that's 2 years old. It's got incredible access that comes out, and the food plot, like the huntability of it, is 5-star. It has that east access and kind of that south access, so it sets up really good for those deer to go into the sanctuary and then come out to food and then go out to big ag. It's only 61 acres. It's got a cabin on it. It is not for the faint of heart because it's already turnkey. Like, we have it to perfection.
It's a go.
It's a go right now. And it's that people can hunt it right now if they were to buy it. And I want to sell it because I want to go forward with more land purchases. It's kind of, I'm done with turning it into what it almost already was, because Kevin took it to another level. It's like trees planted on it, big deer all over the place, and so many deer. And it's actually in DeWitt County, Illinois, by Clinton Lake, 61 acres. It can be split into several different parcels. So like, I envision either somebody from out of state wanting to spend 1031 money on it and then stay in the cabin a couple weeks a year and have the greatest deer hunting in the world with him and like his son or something, or his daughter. Or I see somebody from Champaign County or somewhere in Illinois down by Springfield or Bloomington. It's only like 30 minutes from Bloomington. I see them coming in there and building their dream house, keeping 40 acres of it, and then like giving or selling off 20 acres to like their kid or their friend and having this beautiful hunting rec property. It's got a spot for 2 perfect lakes on it. And that, you can find that at land.com. Look up DeWitt County, or the Fulton County spot. You can look up Fulton County, 25 acres, and or just reach out. We'll send you the link. But those are 2 spots right now that somebody could come in from out of state, buy, and be on deer this season right now before the rut. So that's kind of my real estate game, and it's what I do, and it's what I love, and I can help anyone buying real estate is what I'm saying pretty much.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's exciting. So if someone's interested, they can check that out. As we look to wrap this up, you've been teasing this since the beginning of the episode. I want to know, what's your lowdown?
Yeah, the lowdown breakdown is brought to you by Lowdown High Speed Viewer. You're going to look at the lowdownviewer.com. This made out of Wisconsin. This helps you as a little bitty tablet go from camera to camera, looking at your SD cards, flipping it open, hooking it up to your camera in camp, showing the bucks that you're after, and then being able to exchange cards like I do. I have a smaller card and a bigger card here that I use as my hard drive, and I get to go through and pick my big bucks out, and I get to store them. And this is just one of the tools in my toolbox that I carry with me in my truck and my side-by-side, and that's brought to you by Lowdown. And the lowdown this week is we have breaking news of like the perfect storm that's going to be happening next week. Like, I have my friends driving in from Pennsylvania, coming in to hunt this next week. You heard me talk about in episode 1 about full moons and predictions and how good that full moon on that 17th. I get so many questions like, what are you talking about this full moon? I've been paying attention to you for the last couple of years on Facebook, and you keep talking about this vampire walk before a full moon. And I have them go back and think about it. But we all know that weather trumps everything. Cold weather trumps everything when it comes to whitetails and when it comes to those monster, enormous, giant mega bucks. We're talking about cold being over the moon. Now we have the full moon, the 48 hours. I'm even going to go for, I can't do the math. What's 3 days before a full moon? 60 something hours.
Oh,
48 hours. And then, can you do math?
I
70 hours.
No,
I'm going to go 3 days before the full moon. The full moon's on the 17th. If y'all aren't hunting the evening, from noon until dark on the 17th, you're crazy. On, the 16th, noon till dark is going to be wild. You're going to see some really, really, really big whitetails hit the ground. And even that evening of the 15th is going to be wild. If you have the cojones and you want to take a chance and you only get a couple days to hunt every year, this is where I'm going to go back on what I said last week, which is I'm not going to tell you not to hunt on October mornings because clearly you get mad at me, but I'm trying to help you kill the big giants. If you want to go kill a really big buck, not that I'm giving you permission, but I am going to say if you are going to hunt a morning, the morning of the 16th, the morning of the 17th, go for it. Don't, if you don't have a buck that's already using the area, don't just go for it just to go for it. But if you're going to, and the weather's going to crash like it's talking about, we're talking about first frost stuff, which is like 30 degrees, 35 degrees. We're looking at it in northern Illinois. So look at your weather. Let your weather dictate what you do. Try to hold off and not hunt mornings. But if you're going to, and your weather's down to 30 degrees, they're going to be feeling real froggy, showing off their muscles, snort wheezing, fighting. That's all October's about, is snort wheezing, fighting, pecking order. They're going to be up their feet. They're going to be making scrapes. So if you're going to go ahead and hunt October morning, do it on the 16th and the 17th and get it out of your system, and then wait till November, right? And we just have to give a shout out to White Gold. White Gold makes this happen. White Gold deer feed. This is my Clover Rush that I love. I've also got switchgrass sitting here next to me. And White Gold is out of Michigan. They're a very great company when it comes to family and it comes to a hometown mill that's putting this stuff together. Go check them out. White Gold deer feed. They've got minerals. They've got incredibly fresh seed, and they deliver it to your door. So, yeah, I think we answered a lot of questions. I'm pretty fired up for this week.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I think that as people continue to ask questions, hopefully they're getting a lot of good information. We're trying to make sure we're keeping the show fresh. We're, updating things behind you. Like, I just queued up the camera so you can see, and if you're watching, we got a bear that's been added right behind. So, see, there you go. Yeah, so we got some love is in the air. Between
new stuff. And if you're listening, you can go to YouTube. I mean, the whole thing is to share it with your friends so you guys can be on the same page. We're all talking about the same things. This show is, I'm telling you how to kill that bigger echelon of bucks and how to grow your property. It doesn't mean you got to listen to me, but it's stuff you can discuss with your friends. Make sure you're on the same page. Imagine if none of you invaded the timber for all October. You might kill the biggest buck of your life. I may be right, and it's okay. You don't have to tell me, but just think about it. I'm trying to get them to think a little bit, Chris.
Yeah, man. Well, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to think. I mean, sometimes it hurts, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. Well, and as we get into some of the next episodes, we can kind of start, as you're seeing more deer and you're out hunting more, we can start tracking some of those and just, they need to be keeping up to date with what you're doing. I know you're doing lives a lot, so if they want to see what's happening in real time,
yes,
check you out on Facebook,
Instagram, Chris Brackett, Land Life. If you're listening to this, get your cold weather clothes. Get ready for those evening sits. Go ahead and go in and capitalize. This week's going to be the week. And the dark side of the moon, I'm already scheduling my mom's ceremony for on the dark side of the moon, that 18th, 19th, 20th, because I just don't think it's going to be happening. I'm going to gear up for November 1 and Halloween, because the 4 or 5 days after that full moon is not really a big deal for me. I just know that they don't like to move that much. Not that I won't get one, but this is getting ready. This is going to come out here the beginning of the week. So get fired up, take work off, let your wife, whatever, schedule it for that third week of October, all the honeydews and all the date nights and all the stuff. Try to get in the woods this week. It's a big deal.
Well, thanks again for tuning in. We're excited to hear from you, so please give us a call. Call the landline, 309-761-LAND, and we will be catching up with you soon.
Yeah, next episode, I'm telling you about all the deer that I'm after. It's going to be a fun one. There's your teaser.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. I'm Chris Brackett. This is The Brackett Show. Thank you.